Good morning and welcome to the Community Profile on WLON, WOHS, and WCSL this Tuesday, the 17th of June. Milton Baker along with you with co-host and executive producer of the program is Sandy Alexander. Good morning there, Sandy.
Good morning, Milton.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
And would you please introduce our guest for today?
I'll be glad to. We're glad to have Pam Seagle. She has a real last name. From medical research. There's two locations in Shelby and Boiling Springs. And this is going to be a learning experience for Milton and I, and probably you as well. I've passed by this office all the time. And I questioned, I said, wonder what that is. And then you called me.
Right.
So we're going to find out exactly what medical research is all about. And we're glad to have Pam with us. And I'm glad you called me because I really wanted to know what took place here. And so we're able to tell the people this morning about medical research, what you do. And so we're just going to sit back and listen to you.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Milton. I just wanted to reach out to the general listeners and our community especially and let everybody know exactly what we do. We do clinical research trials on new and already approved pharmaceutical medicines. Might be medicines you and I are already taking, and they're looking for a new indication. Might be a medicine almost ready to market, but you know it has to have 2 or 3 more studies provided to the FDA for it to market and be safe and effective for the targeted drug or targeted diagnosis: hypertension, diabetes, COPD, what have you. We have been doing this since 2004. We've been growing. The more we do, the better we get, and we're effective and we're efficient, and our work ethics are good, and we keep people safe. So I really believe in what I do. I know it has to happen for the future of medicine. We have several volunteers that come and might want to come again after participating in a study and then want to do another one. We have an office in Boiling Springs. And it's right down below Crawley. That's a landmark I always use, and I know the name's getting ready to change. But you know, if you're from Cleveland County, you're going to know where Crawley Memorial Hospital has been, and we're right down below there in Boiling Springs. Is an office we've had since 2009 on Grover Street, across from Medical Arts. I always use that as a landmark because you know of how long it's been established. And we're right there across Medical Arts, and we've been there since 2004, where we started.
Sometimes these medicines that you're doing research on, that can be a lengthy process, can it
Sure
not?
Can. Yeah. I've got, actually I brought a notebook of studies currently going on. One's 3 years, and it's for diabetes. And then I've got a short one that's for asthma, and it's 36 months. You know, and we may do, depending on the phase and what they're looking for, is the length of the study.
Sometimes people in other countries, certain medicines that are not approved yet in the United States, maybe in other countries though, and sometimes people will try to go that route.
Well, now there's people who will call Canada or where have you and try to get their prescriptions filled, and I'm not going to say that it's authentic because I don't know, but I know that happens. But then there's also other countries that have approved the same drugs that we're doing studies on years before we have. So,
it's amazing that this type of, you know, you'd think these drug studies, Sandy, would be, you know, huge cities, but does this go on in you know, places like Shelby and Boiling Springs all around the country?
Absolutely. We actually found out how localized research is through my daughter when she went to college the first year. You know, getting the kids an education will teach the parents something sometimes.
Yeah.
And so she worked for a pharmaceutical study research site in South Carolina in Spartanburg. And that physician invited us down to come and just shadow and see everything we do. And I came back and I talked to the medical director with Carolina Research, and I was like, well, we already take care of people, and that's what they're doing, you know. And so we sort of did our research about it, reached out to some of these companies, and had a person in Shelby that is a monitor over a pharmaceutical site, and he just actually came out and interviewed us, looked at our facility, and gave us our first study.
Yeah. Do you also sometimes do you have products that are on the market now that you're still looking at, that you may find something and it goes off the market? Does that ever happen?
That goes off the market that's come through our hands? No, I've not seen that.
Yeah.
It can, and I don't doubt that it will.
Yeah. But you know, a lot of folks when they get their prescription, especially if it's a first-time prescription, they see a list of side effects. You hear commercials on TV,
Yep.
and I think that's mandatory. They have to give these list of possible side effects to advertisements on TV. That gets people alarmed. But is that sort of what you folks are doing there?
We are. We're helping to make the package insert that scares you to death.
Uh-huh.
You know.
So you're the ones.
Yeah. The best volunteer is the informed volunteer.
Mm-hmm,
You know everything that could and we hope not to happen. And the benefits and the risk is in a nutshell what that is.
Now, when you're studying and you mentioned volunteers, people you have say a set group, I don't know, 100 or whatever, and part of is this the way it works? Part of the group is given the actual drug for testing. Others are given a placebo. Yeah, is that how we hear about that a lot? So
yeah, and sometimes a placebo, to get a good concept of what a placebo is not necessarily a sugar pill. And I'll get back to your question, but it can be the standard of care. You know, that's always the standard to take that aspirin, aka placebo, which we wouldn't know. But yes, in a study, you're going to be randomly chosen to be in, may have 4 or 5 arms of different combinations, study drug A, B, C at different doses, and then the last one being that placebo arm, standard of care.
But I imagine it's got to be very rewarding when you do come through and you find a drug that is very effective. It helps people and it's safe and affordable and folks are better off for it.
Yep, and you're exactly right. It is rewarding, and better yet, it's rewarding to see people have confidence in us, you know, to volunteer their time for these studies.
And it is totally volunteer.
It's totally volunteered. However, they are compensated for their time and travel.
Okay.
Depending on the study.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. One question a lot of folks have, and I don't know if you folks deal in this, but generics. Do you work? Are the name brands and the generics studied simultaneously, or how does a generic?
We
come
are
in?
not involved in that. As far as a drug, to me, might be initials, or like TAK 491, and then help raise it to the market, and then it gets its brand name. And we've raised several drugs to the market, but comparing. Your generic, I think there's a standard by the FDA that says what a generic drug has to be, and I better not get into that because I may misspeak and not get that exactly right compared to a brand name. You know, maybe it's the percentage of anyway.
Yeah,
content of the medicine.
Yeah,
so,
I think my thinking about the drug system, for lack of a better word. You always think of Atlanta, these humongous cities that were doing this research or right inside of a hospital.
right,
But you don't think about a medical research building right there.
right.
And, but I mean, it's wonderful. We have to have them. But walk me through, Pam. Let's say Jane Doe walks in the office today.
All right. Jane comes into the office and she's seeking to know more about doing a clinical trial. It can be called clinical trial research interchangeably. She has diabetes. She wants to know if she can participate in this one she's seen in the What's Up Shopper. Okay, tell me more about it. We're going to present her everything that has been approved. The verbiage, all verbiage has to be approved by an IRB, which is an internal review board. FDA doesn't necessarily approve the verbiage we can say or cannot say, but the IRB does, and therefore the volunteer. We present her the benefits, the risk, what the medication is, how long it's going to be. We ask her to sign a consent before she does, you know, if she wants to participate, she's confident, or, you know, she wants to go home and read the consent at home with her doctor, with her sister, her wife, or her husband, her children. And then come back and let's start the study. We consent, bottom line. We can then begin procedures. And procedures may be just like going to the doctor, having your blood drawn, an EKG, your blood pressure, weight, and height. We give you education on diabetes so you know how to eat properly. And then we schedule your visits according to the protocol that's been provided by these companies.
Okay. And then they start taking...
They'll start at a given point in time in the protocol. They'll start their medication treatment, and we'll just follow them closely. at any point in time, a volunteer can withdraw their consent. And we like to share these chemistries, these blood work results we get with them so they can take it to their doctor. And they're not changing their primary care. That's a big thing they need to know. They're not giving up their doctor, per se. And if you don't have a doctor, and you need one and you can't afford to go to one, a lot of times we'll hear stories from folks that have that situation as well. And they're welcome.
One of these studies that somebody volunteers for, how long a process does that take if they stay with it, from start to finish?
From start to finish, a diabetic study, and it depends on the study. It can be anywhere from 3 years to 36 months. Got one that's 5 years long. And we know they're being taken care of because they're within the guidelines. We keep these people safe. And anybody gets outside of that, we can take care of them on good clinical practice standards. You can take over that care at any time.
When it's all over and finished up, wrapped up for that volunteer, do they know whether they were given the actual drug or the placebo?
They do not, and we do not. It may be 2 or 3, 4 years after the study has completed or ended, and then we'll get an invite to come to hear the end results. And it might be in England, and it might be in California, but we are notified that it's available, or we could read about it, in the medical journals.
And what medicines we might not know exactly what they're for, but what medicines have you done this research on that are now available because of the research?
We've helped raise Edarby to the market. It's a blood pressure medication. Very proud of that one. A lot of work went into that, and seen it being effective. And you could almost tell. And I guess the more you do anything, you know who's getting what, and maybe not, or something else going on. But it was effective for the majority of the folks that volunteered for that. It took about 3 years to come through our hands, and then it was on the market. And I'm proud to say that we were a part of that. So, of course, there's Advair and Symbicort and all this is still being studied and compared to new medications, and we've helped raise Indacaterol for COPD compared to the Advair and Symbicort. So it's interesting and rewarding. There again, you're seeing progress, and people are having access to medicines they may otherwise not.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the volunteers, they're not at any serious risk during these tests. I mean, because you, like I said, you're the folks who put the warnings and the side effects on the packaging. But these volunteers, are they ever at a risk of?
I guess there's always a risk anytime you take a medicine. Haven't had anybody to have any serious adverse event, and if you look at these package inserts, they're talking about adverse events, and it begins with headaches, and it might end with death. We have not had any bad outcomes or deaths. Would be my worst thing that could happen. And an SAE or an adverse event could be merely something that happened to you, car wreck, while you were in a study. But no, and I'm sure it happens. I'm sure there's been some liver failures and things that can happen on any medicines, but it's not happened in our 10 years.
Yeah. And do the folks who come in, that they ask questions like that, I'm sure?
If they don't, we give it to them.
Yeah, you'll give them that information.
We give them that information to the very worst to the best case scenario. So they're well informed. We want them to be well informed before signing an informed consent.
Can they talk about the study? I mean, do they
Absolutely.
know what's going on, really? I mean, are they given a lot of information as the study goes on? It's something they can talk with others about?
They can. We cannot, however, say who's in the
You're
study.
confidential, but they're at liberty to say, hey, I'm doing a study for a
And
new
actually,
drug.
I hope that they do.
Yeah.
Because if they have confidence in what they're doing and they understand it, then it's going to be to a benefit to a lot of people.
Okay.
Yes.
So the pharmaceutical companies is the ones who, well, I don't know if hire you or
We are contract work.
Contract.
Yes. And we, just like anybody who does contract work, we can turn it down as well as accept it. And given the review of what they're wanting to do in a protocol per se, we accept it or decline it. Most of the ones we do, I'm going to say all the ones we do, we are confident in that we can execute the protocol. We can run the protocol and find the volunteers for it, and everybody come out good.
how often or how many new drugs come along in a period of time?
Right now, I think we have about 8 new drugs that we're reviewing. And then the rest of them, let's say we have 25 studies going at both offices combined, are approved medications looking for further indications, cardiovascular outcomes, which is, any kind of heart conditions. They're wanting to know, are these people having problems?
So can you tell us how many people are in the study now?
I can give you an estimate.
Okay.
And I'm going to say there's at least 68 volunteers right now. We may have screened 200 to get those 68 into a given study. So not everybody makes it the first time. Let's say your sugar just wasn't high enough, Sandy, and so you just didn't get in. It had to be a certain number.
You had to meet that protocol to even be chosen.
Yep, that criteria. Yep.
So, folks out there listening, every time you see an advertisement for a drug on television or the doctor prescribes you any prescription medicine, somewhere along the line, no matter how, and I'm sure it's changed over the years, but some medicines have been out there on the market a good long time. But somewhere along the line, it was tested in this
on this
country.
level,
Yeah.
yes, and in communities just like ours.
And we mentioned other countries have other ways that they do
Everybody follows,
things.
yes. Everybody follows a national guideline. However, it depends on their government and how fast they release it. And our government's pretty strict on medications, and that's good. But you'll see things moving a little bit differently than England or other countries in general.
Before it comes to you, are these drugs tested on animals in
Absolutely.
any cases?
That's a phase 1 study. Yep, at a toxic level, they're giving these medications and looking for reactions, and especially like in monkeys or what have you. Let's don't forget, how close we are related to monkeys, depending on your beliefs. But they're good indication if it's good for the, if it made it through the lab and then it made it in healthy subjects, which would be your other phase 1B, and then it made it out to the targeted diagnosis and everything's safe and effective. It's going to go on through the phases until it's approved by the FDA.
And these are all prescription medicines we're talking about, right? Not over-the-counter stuff.
Oh, and we have had offers for over-the-counter medications, but not a lot of success in those, so we just don't do that.
Okay.
So from start to finish, how long does the study? Well, you said from 36 months to so many years.
Well, that's a good question. It can be as short as 3 months to 5 years, and have had an offer for one that was 9 years long. And that, of course, is no placebo. The longer the study, the less likelihood that you're getting a placebo. You're going to be treated with a known medication, and either or dosage we don't know, but we know that you're getting treated for the targeted diagnosis of that study.
Okay. And over such a period of time, like I said, your volunteers, your test subjects, if you will,
Subjects.
they are. There's some compensation. I mean, 5 years is a very long time.
Absolutely, and that's a big commitment. They are compensated for their time and travel, and we generally try to get people, compensated back as quick as possible. 3 or 4 visits under your belt, or every visit, depending on what is agreed upon at the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Pam, you have been very informative. Like I say, you pass by it every day, you see it, and you just didn't know what went on there. So
Right. Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you both. I've got hooked. I was telling Sandy on listening to the radio station, and I thought, wait a minute, maybe we should just call in. We've used WhatsApp Shopper for advertisement and love it, and I just can't say enough about it. When we go to our meetings, we give out this information about advertisements like your paper, and it's just a wonderful, positive thing because people keep it for a week, and they read it every day, and we appreciate that. And then the radio station, I got to listening for my ad on preventing kids on drugs, and I thought, I know more about Cleveland County than I've ever known, and then heard the community profile, and so thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to have you.
Very interesting.
Yeah, we gave you a false nickname because
It's okay.
McGillicuddy. So Pam Seagle is so good that you could be with us, and thank you for coming. And Austin, her son is with us as well. So there we go, Milton.
All right, Pam. Thank you very much for being here today. And the name of the company again is Carolina Research Center. Is that right?
Yes, it is. And then there's Bowling Springs Medical Research.
Okay. All right. And website or anything, folks can go on?
Website building for Carolina Research is crcshelby.com and the Bowling Springs Medical Research.com.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program and learned a lot. That medical research on, it's just amazing. It's going on right here
That's
in your
right.
own community.
Didn't know it, but it is.
Yeah, and it's like that throughout the country. It's not just the big cities like you
That's
said,
right.
Atlanta and so forth. It's happening everywhere. All right, we thank Pam Seagle for being with us today, and Sandy, we've got open tomorrow.
We do have
I've
open.
placed a call, and I know you're working on getting somebody for tomorrow, so we'll see if
We'll see who
see
that
if we
may
can get somebody
be.
to show up.
Yeah.
If not, we'll
We'll be
figure out
back
something.
Monday with Pregnancy Center of Lincoln County. They're
All
coming Monday.
Okay, but join us again next time. And like always, if you have suggestions for topics or persons of interest for the program, please let us know.